Thank you very much. Mr. Klaso, are there any other matters arising that members would like to point out? Honorable Mente, Honorable Tlangwini, Honorable Mkhaliphi.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning to the colleagues. No, Speaker, on the matter arising, which Klaso has given a response to, that is due course. Due course is a very dangerous terrain. Can we get a proper timing? Or as this committee, we ought to say in a week's time, can we get a proper response? Meaning which in the next programming committee, let's get a proper response on the consideration of the ad hoc committee, because those laws have got a direct impact on how the courts are operating currently. And then number two is there was a question on the bills that were assented to and sent to the president, and we do not have a status of what's happening with those bills. There's quite a number, over 20, sitting with the president, and we do not know what's happening. Some of them are the copyrights, which we've been sitting with even in the last parliament for the past 5 years. It affects people's lives directly. So we need to know how do we move from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe on the question that you have raised regarding the ad hoc committee, I will ask the House Chairperson on committees maybe to respond before I can go to Honorable Tlangwini. Honorable Frolik.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. Mr. Klaso is correct that it is being considered, and we'll come back in. I won't use the word due course. I will say imminently, once we've finalized the discussions with the relevant role players. That includes also from the side, Honorable Speaker, the leader of government business, because they will be a key component with us. But we will come back imminently with a response around that's one of the proposals in ad hoc committee that we are looking at. The other one is the functionality and practicality to give due consideration to the urgency of the matter being located in different portfolio committees. So we are weighing up those options and we'll come back imminently, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Can I suggest, honorable members, that we leave the matter on the agenda for reporting in the next, programming committee until such time we are certain on the direction we take. I'm not sure, Honorable Frolik, Honorable Kurenov, whether you can respond on the matter of the bills that are with the President.
Thank you, Speaker, and good morning, honourable members. You will recall that towards the end of the sixth administration, both houses of Parliament were extremely busy passing legislation, and a total of in excess of 40 bills were passed by the two houses. Those bills were sent to the President for assent. Secondly, you will recall that since the beginning of the seventh Parliament, in every meeting here of the National Assembly Programming Committee, the Bills Office reports on bills assented to and sent to the President. The number of bills on the desk of the President at the end of the sixth administration were in excess of 40 bills. The report this morning, which you will receive, the total number of bills sent to the President for sentence still on his desk is less than 20. So there is movement. The President is bound by the Constitution to apply his mind independently and objectively to each bill sent for assent. And his office is advising the President accordingly, independently. So this is a moving target, it's a process, but there is progress and the bills will be dealt with as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Korenov, for that response. I'm sure you will just appraise the President that the Programming Committee remains concerned, that some of the bills that are on his table, might require some agency. But we are happy that you are taking keen interest on that matter as his councillor here, and you'll be able to appraise us as well. Thank you very much. Honorable Tlangwini.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, on a matter on the quality of responses, and it happened again yesterday. And it might seem like it's something very petty, but I do believe our members take time to produce these questions to ministers. And part of the meeting last week, we have tasked also to take back to the cabinet that the quality of the responses of ministers are quite embarrassing. And it happened again with the Minister of Sports, answering nothing, just hallucinating something, whatever he's hallucinating, what he was doing yesterday. And that is becoming quite embarrassing. And if we want to use our question sessions to be portrayed outside to our constituencies like that, not in the name of the EFF, we take times to prepare these questions, and it ought to be responded in a quality and quantitative manner, not in a way, in a playful manner. We are not here for games. And the minister must understand that. It's becoming embarrassing, to say the least, Speaker, and you ought to protect us as members of parliament and the work that we are doing as this house. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The issue indeed of question is an important one, and how those are responded to. And I'm happy that the Councillor for the Leader of Government Business is here, will be able to also raise those matters with the Leader of Government Business. Honorable Mkhalibi.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker just wants to get on the matters arising, the status of the Reserve Bank bill that we raised last time. Maybe we can get a status on how it is going to proceed, because we raised it last week and Honorable Mente narrated the fact that it's not moving. It has taken time. So can we get a clear direction now from Parliament? The second issue that I want to raise is the issue of interpretation. It seems as if now we are no longer entertaining it. But the last 2 weeks, the Deputy Speaker said this matter in her office. Can we get that clarity? Because we agreed that we are going to wait for her to update us in this forum, and then we are going to tell our members just to wait for her. But if we are not updated, it means that we are going to go back to demand it when the sitting is taking place. And then, angakaqeda Speaker. Uyathanda ukungena emlonyeni, kodwa mekuJenuary uyenza leyo. The transport coordinator that was
What I was doing was coughing, really.
Oh.
I think you just like me to interrupt you. Okay, you can proceed.
Yeah, and maybe we can also be updated in terms of the transport coordinated, because Honorable Mente raised it last week as well, to say how come that the transport members of parliament is coordinated by the Department of Public Works, because it's also give us a problem. If you can be updated on that regard, and I specifically remember you responded as well as a speaker. And then the issue that is, okay, before that issue, what is the status report in terms of the venues that we raised also last time, and the meetings that are not recorded? And it was also raised in the Chief Whip's Forum. Can we get a way forward? Is it that matter, is it sorted or not? So on the matter that was raised by my colleague, Honorable Ntlangweni, Speaker, we even wrote a letter to you as EFF that ministers last week, on the member statement, they didn't answer. They were just waffling. They were just coordinating themselves here in the House and said nothing in terms of responding to member statement. As Honorable Ntlangweni put it very correctly, that those issues that are raised through the member statements are the issues that are coming from the community. And we can't allow a situation whereby you just tick the box. The ministers just stand up, not saying anything. But it was even worse yesterday, Speaker, during the question and answer. There is a minister, 4 questions. We do understand that the first question is sent to a minister, and then it's obvious she can or he can prepare his or her answer, writing down. But how can you read a follow-up question? How does the minister know what will be the follow-up question says on the main question? And then she reads something that is not even relevant to what was raised as the main question. And then on several occasions, she just stood up and said, no, I don't have an answer to that one. I'll comply by writing down because following the rules. And the chair allowed that. So it seems as if, I think, Speaker, this thing we also raised it during the Rules Committee. the quality of responses from ministers. And you, speakers and the chairs, we are very quick to say the minister have answered. At least one minister from the DA yesterday was defying the chair yesterday, said, no, let me answer questions because I was a member of parliament. I know where you come from. But the chairs, house chairs, are there to say, it's up to them how they answer. It means this exercise is useless, Chair. It was worse, as my colleagues is putting it. It was worse during Gayton, and the chair who was there was very biased. I don't know if he's here. Their chair who was presiding over that house during question and answer was very biased. And he was very quick to take out our members, not even following the rules. But when it comes to Gayton, when insulting EFF, he didn't even act on Gayton. We had to stand up in the house to say, can you stop being biased? You are the chair. So if you are going to allow the situation under your guidance, Speaker, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a very serious problem. So you are raising this thing in order for you just to sort out this thing. We can't be undermined by Gayton each and every time when he comes here and appear here. And the chair who's supposed to protect all of us, very biased. So I think that, Speaker, you must tell us what needs to be done now about that chair of yesterday. Because that thing that he did yesterday to EFF, it was uncalled for. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Let me ask Honorable Manye, and then we'll get the responses.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to you and good morning to the House. Mine are two quick issues. One, I was going to recommend that this committee must follow up with departments that lag too much in terms of regulations when the bills are submitted to the President for assent. For instance, the public procurement bill was assented to on the 23rd of July, and still it's not in force. And the reason it's not in force is because some of the provisions of that act depend on regulations. But now if National Treasury is not driving that process, it means the President will continue saying, I'm still waiting for the regulations. Otherwise, how is this going to be regulated when it's in force? So I think something needs to happen to get the regulations quick enough. There has to be some kind of a standard operating procedure that by the time you submit bills for assent, the regulations should really be ready, so that when the President assents, then this thing, there's no excuse not to have that particular act in force. So that's the one thing. The second thing, Chair, in fact, it was raised by the national chair of the EFF in the past, that there's this misconception that buses leave villages at 8 o'clock, when in fact, 8 o'clock, it's the time they arrive to start the picking up. So by the time they have finished all their rounds in the village, they actually leave something like 25 to or something to 9 and all that. Now, meetings that start at 9 in Parliament, totally impossible to be on time for those meetings if the buses leave at something to 9 from the villages. So I wanted to make a request, Chair, that those buses must leave earlier. The pickup time must be 7:30, so that at least by 8 o'clock they depart at minimum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are issues that I would like to respond to, and also ask Mr. Klaso to respond to some, and maybe the Secretary on some of those. Honourable members, with respect to the interpretation services, I would ask the Deputy Speaker to respond on that matter. On the issue of transport for members, yes, I indicated last time that we require coordination, and I will still say that we will have a meeting this week with Public Works, but also, as I indicated last week, we will plead that chairpersons of portfolio committees do appraise us on time on their programs and at what time their committees intend to start or stop the meeting, so that adequate, arrangements are made. At the moment, Parliament does not have that function to procure its own transport services. And I think that will be a matter that will have to be deliberated upon because it requires finances to do so in terms of going out on tender for those buses because even Public Works doesn't own those buses, for instance. And Parliament doesn't have that budget line in its budget. And it's a matter that we'll need to address. I can see Honorable Ghana, your hand.
30-second, Speaker. So when we get the list of meetings for the committees, we see that the committee starts at 9. So that particular program in terms of the meeting starting early should inform the bus operation. Because if this week we've had 2 meetings, and I had asked my colleague to raise the meeting yesterday in the chief whips, that the meetings that are supposed to start at 9 end up starting at 9:30, and the time that is given, because on these days there are sittings, so you end up reducing the amount of questions that you have to ask to the department because you have to rush back to attend the sitting. So I think that the meetings, Honorable Frolick, when the times are agreed to, let it be sent to that coordination of the bus operation, whether it's Public Works, it's internal and so forth, because it just reduces the amount of time that we spend with the departments. Thanks.
Yes, Honorable Member, that's why I said we will have this week a meeting with Public Works to address the issue, whether of starting or even of ending such meetings. On the issue of the quality of questions, it's a matter that we will raise, and we have actually written to the Leader of Government Business on it. So we will engage based on the experiences that we have had thus far on this matter. So it's a matter that will have to continuously engage the executive through the Leader of Government Business about how members address them. But I must say that in terms of our rules, when a question is asked, an answer must be given. But what that answer must say. That is why we have then appealed to the ministers that please ensure that the quality of your responses meet the requirements of the question that has been asked. So, as I indicate, it's a matter that we'll raise with the Leader of Government Business. And I would also ask, with respect to the status of venues, maybe before that interpretation, if the Deputy Speaker can respond, and then Mr. Klaas on the issue of the status of venues, if you can also come through.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to refer the honourable member to page 2, the last paragraph in the minutes, where it is indicated that this report will be available in the next 2 weeks and will include the costing of the proposals. So the report will not be brought to the NAPC piecemeal, but will be here at our next NAPC as committed at the meeting last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Klaas.
Madam Speaker, I would like to start with the issue of the Reserve Bank bill. The matter is in the committee section report, except to say that the committee was briefed. The committee will have engagements with the PBO and legal services, and they will then develop a program, I think on the 5th, which is today. Yes, today. And then on member statements, as indicated last week, the Speaker wrote to the Leader of Government Business, and the Speaker also responded, I think Deputy Speaker responded to the EFF because they had raised concerns about the matter. About yesterday, we have just received a letter. Speaker has just received a letter from the EFF, and Speaker will consider the letter from the EFF and give a considered response to that. Madam Speaker, also to indicate that on questions, in addition to Madam Speaker addressing the matter with LOGP, the matter is also before the subcommittee on the review of rules, the quality of replies to questions. And the subcommittee will be seized with that. A report, draft report is ready. I'm not sure if STB would want to deal with the issue of fairness, and unless he wants me to deal with it. Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and good morning to honorable members. At this point, I don't have an assessment report on the conditions. The work is being done by the committee, and I would like to undertake to present that in the next meeting, Madam Speaker. The assessment was around their suitability in terms of conditions. What we last reported was that we have secured those additional 10 venues, and some committees are using them, but there were instances where the air cons were not proper and the carpets. So we undertook to carry out that assessment to ensure that there's a conduciveness status. So I would like to bring it in the next meeting, Madam Speaker, with your permission.
Thank you, STP. I think the other issue that was raised in the programming, but also in the whippery, was with respect to the recordings and the audio of meeting venues. I hope we'll be able to also get that report when you report next week. Also to indicate how many of those do have recordings, and on those that don't have, what are the possibilities for us to be able to have a recording system, and what are the cost implications thereof. On the issue of regulations, Honorable Manye, I would propose that while on one hand, as the Speaker will raise the matter with the Minister concerned, that portfolio committee on finance who oversee the department must also be able, as part of their oversight work on executive action, to address the matter of regulations, as you have indicated, particularly with respect to the procurement bill. I do think that, yes, there's a follow-up, Honorable Manye.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. It's a follow-up on a different issue, on the questions.
All right.
Just a quick follow-up, Chair. I think this issue is very important, and I think it's so important that it's one of the issues that starts to raise the temperature in the House, when we just feel that a minister is just waffling instead of responding, instead of answering the question. And I think the issue is in the difference of the words, responding versus answering. Ministers just tend to issue all manner of responses. We don't want responses, we want answers. And when the chair, and the reason sometimes there's also an issue, a dynamic between members and the chair, is when we notice that the chair is tolerating responses, we rely on the chair to point out to the minister before even members that, no, minister, the question is, answer the question. The question, we're not dictating what the answer should be, but we don't want a response, we want a semblance of an answer. If the answer is wrong, whatever, there's a process to deal with that. But the minister can't respond and put that response as an answer. So there must be a differentiation on that, and we're relying on the chair to say, minister, but the question was. So therefore, the chair must be the one that is more vigilant, even more than members, to say, but that was not the question. That was not we are not answering the question. The question is this. So, and when the chair doesn't do that, we begin to lose confidence in the chair. We begin to say the chair is biased. So I think I needed to just raise that point. Thank you.
Yes, and that's why, Honorable Manye, the issue that you are raising on the quality and that other members have raised, despite the communication that has been done with the leader of government business for the executive, it's a matter that is also on the rules, subcommittee on the rules, because the rules as they stand now, it says, question when is asked, the minister will answer the question, but dictating on how it must be answered is not defined. And that's the matter we need to deal with so that there can be clarity on that matter. And I think we're expecting too much from the presiding officer to actually achieve that objective. And that's why, as a rules-based institution, we're saying the subcommittee on the rules, let's look at this matter so that we can be prescriptive, if needs be, on our rules. Honorable Mentor.
Speaker, you know, it is really unfair, if I may put it that way, that a House Chair or Speaker or Deputy Speaker easily identify a question which is not in line with an initial question. And they are very quick to point it out but the question is not the same as the initial question. However, they become deaf when the answer is not in line with the question. And that is our plea here. Let's not be played. The House Chair's Speaker and the Deputy Speaker can hear the answer. That is not an answer. It's now a response which is a mediocre, which does not address the matter at hand. It must be stopped. The similar way you can hear that the follow-up is not in line with what was asked. It must be the same rule that applies to a minister which does not answer. It becomes worse when a minister ventures into insults and undermining the members of the House. A minister is from the executive. Their job is to come here and account. But instead of accounting, they are allowed to undermine us. They are allowed to give us mediocre responses. And we as members must protest. And when we protest, we are sent out of the House. Then which platform must we utilize in order for us to represent the constituencies that we're here for?
This is the
yes.
platform.
Then the second thing, Speaker, is I'm not sure if we are speaking from the same tune in terms of the logistics of members of parliament. Maybe you're going to have to need a different platform to deal with this. Fortunately, the 12th and the 13th is a strategic plan session of parliament, where we must then really answer a question of, in the past 30 years of democracy, we've been doing things and those things don't work for our people. What must change? Now, we can't, as parliament, plan a schedule of parliament committees and everything, and then to operate and implement that schedule, we depend on someone else. A matter of transporting members of parliament is not logistical matter, it's operational matter. Therefore, we need to have a wheel that is constantly running. It's not possible to communicate that a committee will sit from 9 to 1, and then certain members of that committees will attend the House, certain members of that committee will go home. We are here at 1 when members of parliament finish committees. Some of them go home and join online. Some have to attend the House. What happens in between? It's not catered for. It's not even responded to as to what must happen. When you call a secretary of parliament, his hands are tied. Now, who must answer? Leave that. When a committee finishes and the bus has to leave, it can't be that one committee is going to hold a bus from leaving because they are not yet done. They can't call Public Works and say, Public Works holds the bus for the further 30 minutes because we're still busy. They leave. So it's an operational matter that it must be within the parliament, and parliament must decide on it. It can't be Public Works. It can't be another department that deals with our operational matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mentor. That's why I said we would have to discuss this matter. Understanding that you might have an interim arrangement now, but also whatever model at the end that Parliament chooses, we need to then say, how do we, ensure that it happens? How do we finance it to make sure that it indeed becomes part and parcel of our operations? So I'm saying the matter is understood. Yes, we might have interim measures now, but correctly so. What should be the long-term arrangement in addressing this issue? So it requires a collective discussion, and what then become the consequence of that decision from the financial point of view. So I agree, it's a matter we must address as Parliament. Honourable Dagmo.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I was slightly earlier tempted to raise a point of order, but I think I can raise this and seek clarity from you as the Speaker. My understanding is that this committee is an extension of the House, and that the way that we address matters are subject to those rules. Now, I don't think it's a task of this committee to go into the details of what happened yesterday, the limitations of the hybrid platform and so on. I'm sure we've got rules committees and so on. But the issue that I want to raise is that when members in this House, for instance, refer to a minister by his first name, in the House here, in this meeting, they say Gayton. The question I'm trying to ask is that if this is an extension of the House, should we really be, addressing members by their first names? I'm not a huge person for protocols, but there are rules in regard to how we address people in this meeting. So the order point that I'm actually raising is that if the rules of the House apply to this as a meeting, as an extension of Parliament, is it correct, Chair, that members can refer to others by their first names, and it is an issue that is ignored, or not, or is it's not an issue? Because my order point is that we should not do that, and I'd like to ask you to rule on that matter if we need to be formal. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Dlamini.
No, thank you, Speaker. We thought this matter, we raised it on the issue of how we handle each other, especially in the House. And Speaker, this is going to sit with you and your team, because what the member is saying is just talking on the issues that happened on the House yesterday, but is not dealing with this matter in detail, that there was a response of someone who decided to insult and undermine members of Parliament. And we don't have another cheek to give. Because if you're going to behave in a manner that is not exemplary and that has got no respect of other people, you can't expect to get that response back. And to us, to avoid even engaging with the other members and the executive, we want the firmness to come from your office and your team, Speaker, because it's only you who can get us into line. I can't be told by another member of another political party. We are all the same members, even the executive. And once it collapses from your table, then it's going to be a problem. So we're going to really, we are just started this term, and we're going to plead with you to sit with your team to say, once you've taken that seat where you are sitting now, it doesn't matter which political party or part of a coalition you come from. You have to treat us fairly, and you have to stick to the rules. And even the issue of people saying, no, the ministers, they can respond, and there's no determination of how the answer should be. But when someone you can see that has got no interest of respecting even the people that have asked that question, you should be able to rein on them. Because people, if that is the case, all of us, we can pretend as if we're doing the work, but we're continuing to insult. So we really plead with your office, not other members. Those, we don't care about them. We're going to do our work. But when it comes to your office, because once it collapses there, that's why you're going to find ourselves taking over from the duties of the Speaker or the Chair by responding to each other. One of the issues that get raised when it collapses in that table, it's when we don't speak through the Chair. When we start directing to each other, then it collapses. So we're really going to plead. Yesterday, the Chair was presiding. He failed to protect the members. He was biased, even on issues that we're saying You are human. You might have taken a ruling and then you realize that along the way, this was a mistake from your side. You got to have that confidence and be able to say, look, I think this ruling was wrong, member, because as you are sitting there, it doesn't mean you are bigger than all of us. You are presiding over this house with the powers that you're given by the same house. So once you find yourself that you've made a mistake, you've got to be courageous enough to say, I think that my ruling was incorrect. The members that have removed from the hybrid, the online system, can they be brought back? Because the matter that we're dealing with yesterday, even the minister said, but it's not an issue for me because it's a fact of what the members are stating. So why is it an issue? And then the chairperson should have said, look, now that the member, and I've got better clarity of this, and sometimes even the language, because when we try to explain to him that, no, the word banditi, this is what it means, and even the member himself says, no, I don't have a problem with that because it's a fact. But the speaker, because the chair, because it's my way, even when he can see that everyone is saying, but you can see the facts are in front of you that you've made a mistake, because he has taken that his own way of presiding, it's my way or the highway. He will never even have the decency of saying, look like I've made an error, and which is human. We'll all make errors and say, let me withdraw. That's why when you preside over us and say, what you said is wrong, please withdraw. And then we realize that, no, actually it's out of the rules. We do withdraw. So you can do the same thing. It's just how we should treat each other. Then we're going to have the necessary decorum in the house and be able to deal with this member. Because I can tell you now, if they're going to continue to insult us and undermine us, those things of honorable and mistake, they become absolutely meaningless. So we don't want to do that. And we're relying only on that table so that we don't end up guiding each other on the floor here. Thank you.
Honorable members, thank you very much on the issues that you have raised. I wouldn't want that we proceed with that matter on debate because, correctly so, Chief Whip of the EFF, you have written a letter to the Speaker on the matter, and I wouldn't want us to continue debating it here, so that we give it a considered view and I write formally to you. But what is equally important, and I think it's for all of us as members in the House, it's really to try and respect the decorum of the House and our rules. I know that sometimes when debates are heated, we kind of forget that. But it's important to always remember that no matter how tough sometimes it can be, but let's try and respect the very rules that we have set for ourselves, as well as the decorum of the House that we would want to have. Yesterday, the matters that you raised, maybe even before them, Honorable Reddy raised an issue about speaking through the chair, but just before he raised it, he has done exactly the opposite. And I cautioned him to say, while you are correct, but you have just done the opposite of what you are saying. And he laughed and said, I was doing it for the camera. So I do think at times that, all of us owe it to each other to make sure that the House is run in a manner that we would all like it to be. And I do take the issues that have been raised to heart, also on how ourselves as presiding officers, the views that members are having on how sometimes we manage matters, we would look at that and make sure that we contribute to the better functioning of the House. But I do also want to say equally, as members and our members who may not be here, it's important for you as the leadership, because as the chief whips and leaders of the party, you also play an important role to assist that the House function in a manner that would like. So there are certain issues that we have pointed out, as I've said, that some of those that relate to the executive, we will address them accordingly with the leader of government business. But we must all try and ensure that our people whom we represent here, when they also listen to what we say and how we conduct ourselves, must not feel embarrassed. And I think we must always remember that these constituencies that we represent are also watching and looking at us, because we are, whether we may not see ourselves like that, we are their role models. They look at us, they look up at us as the leaders that they trust, that will represent their concerns and their views in this house. So I take note of these issues. We would look at them, and I'm sure also within our rules committee, we would also have to look at how we strengthen our very rules so that they enable us to achieve the issues that we are concerned about, which might be lacking in terms of how currently our instruments present themselves. If we have passed on this matter of matters arising.
If you found this video informative, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this. And as always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.